All right, welcome everyone. My name is Phil, and this is number 2 of the roundtable discussion with unit leaders involved in community warfare. And here we go.
Hey, Phil and everybody. Thank you for showing up. Yes, this is the second community warfare roundtable, as Phil mentioned. And sorry we're a little bit late today. A couple of us were scarfing down food, and one of the guys that was supposed to be on the show today didn't show up. So we were giving him a few minutes to see if he would pop in late, but he didn't. Anyway, we're going to get started. It's okay. It just means we have 3 people, which means hopefully we'll be able to get through the discussion topics quicker and touch on more topics than we did last week. Real quick, what is this community warfare roundtable? Basically, we're still trying to decide. We did one last week. We're doing one this week. We'll probably do one next week. And we're basically trying to find our footing a little bit, see if we want to do it weekly, if there's enough content, enough discussion out there, to make it viable every week. And as far as the amount of people that we have, guests or whatever, we're also kind of playing with that, seeing if we want to go to 2 or 4 is good. Just depends. Last week we went for 2 hours, easy. We could have gone double that, no problem. So we are trying to keep it to somewhere around 2 hours. So we'll see how that goes. What is the purpose of this? The purpose is multi-part, but basically we want to bring together the units and the people that are participating in community warfare, help grow the community and the excitement that's around community warfare. So hopefully also it'll be a recruitment tool to bring more people in. Also, we want to definitely discuss important topics and issues within community warfare, with hopefully the intent and purpose of improving the experience for everyone. Now, we did get a little feedback from our last roundtable, and people were saying that we were kind of softballing a little bit, or that all the answers seemed to be, everybody was happy and so forth. I do want to just do a quick little disclaimer. Number one, we're not censoring, and we're not also telling people how to answer the questions. So we're doing our best to get a wide assortment of people into these every week. But really, when it comes down to it, it's going to be up to the players, the unit leaders themselves, to determine the flavor or the whatever of the message that's being given out. So whether we're happy, whether there's things that need to be worked on, hopefully we'll get to all that in today's roundtable. So I'm going to really quickly introduce the people that have joined us today. Right off the bat, from Aces, we have Shimmering Sword. Shimmy, if you don't mind, go ahead and give me your name, your unit, your role within the unit, and without going into much detail, your experience with community warfare so far.
I'm Anthony, a Shimmering Sword in the game. I'm from Aces, Armored Combat Escalation Service, and I'm a drop lead, unit leader. So usually I'm spending my days corralling all our sheep, getting them to shoot things, having fun. And as far as CW goes, it's what I've been looking for. I've ground out my million mechs and all my C-bills. I wanted something more to do, so fighting over a meaningless map is it's awesome, but can't wait for it to become more.
Excellent. You've ground out all your C-bills. You don't need any more C-bills. Is that what you're saying?
Oh, always more, but
Right on.
Diminishing need.
Absolutely. Alexander Wolf, you want to give us your lowdown?
Sure. My name's Greg, also known as Alexander Wolf. I've been with Ghost Bear for a couple years. Current title in the unit is the Community Ambassador. Just go out and try and communicate with different units about what's going on. And, so far my experience with CW has been, a bit of a mixed bag, which I think is why we're all here tonight. But it's definitely, it's good to have something to finally, see the changing names every day.
The good, the bad, and the ugly. There's definitely good, but there's also bad and ugly, and hopefully we'll get those things ironed out as quickly as possible. Erodian, you're up.
Hey everybody, as you know, I am Lenny, aka Rodian from NG TV, and I am part of Clan Ghost Bear International. I am a drop commander for our comp unit, and I pretty much gather up all the comp guys during the night, and we drop to try and further the goals of the glorious Clan Ghost Bear.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Well, welcome Aces and Clan Ghost Bear International.
I think it's only appropriate that the Clan Ghost Bear representatives have to speak in proper, language. This
Yeah,
is
that's
this is
right.
role playing, right? There's no
No
nope.
contractions.
Yeah.
Gonna
So
hold you to it.
all right.
All right. Well, we had some recent community warfare changes. You want to go over those, Phil?
Yeah, obviously, I want your guys' opinions. We've got the January 20th patch that came out, and one of the things was the ceasefires that was changed. It went from, once in a 24-hour period to 3 times, basically, once every 8 hours. Now, what are your guys'
Hold on.
opinions on?
Hold on. Actually, just go through these here, the recent changes, then that'll be the first discussion topic right there. So just briefly take us through these changes here.
Wall of text incoming, call of arms notifications. We've got the call to arm notifications now indicate how close pending matches to launching 12v0. Group leaders can now invite any player who's part of the faction. That was a big thing. It's still not 100%. There are other things they're going to explore on that. Initial release faction systems, players must still be able to group in the friends list, allowing group leaders to invite players not on their friends list. Will be addressed in a later patch. So that's the big thing. You still have to be a friend right now, and later on you won't have to. You just have to be in the faction, and then various other tweaks and bug fixes. All right. So going back to the original question, the ceasefire, 8 hours. Let's get your opinions on this. Positive or negative? Things you like, don't like. Is it working? Is it not? Is it broken? Does it need changed? Do you even like them?
So, as you guys know, X up, and we'll call Shimmy first. What do you think?
I think it's a step in the right direction. Maybe a little ham-fisted. It is true. The Euro and Aussie guys, essentially all but America, were feeling a bit left out. I felt they're still relevant. It was just very hard for them to observe the relevancy. The results of the day were decided while they're sleeping. So now they get to fight over their own little prime time. I'm worried that having 3 planet turnovers a day is a bit much. We've been Davian for the last month and a half on the kind of Merrick Davian border. It's cool because we've always been kind of back and forth, so it's just kind of an accelerated back and forth battle. But other units like Smoke Jaguar, who are just pushing through every day, well, now they can push through faster. That's what worries me, is the accelerated pace of the map.
Now, you mentioned, Shimmy, that you were going to consider basically trying to participate in 2 of those ceasefires. Is that still something you're trying to do?
Not worked out yet. Essentially, I get on and it's already the ceasefire section that I was already, the NA prime time, and I've ended up just playing more of it. I can't really dedicate more time to a second period, at least not yet.
Right on. And Alexander?
I think I'm going to agree with most of what Shimmy said there. From what I've seen so far today, we definitely got some good matches in at the second ceasefire window this afternoon. I know 1 or 2 planets on our borders were at 60 plus on both sides, which is good to see. The one thing I would comment on from, I think it was yesterday evening, we got on and, several times over the last couple weeks, we'd wait to see what happened during the ceasefire and what flipped where, but we'd still get a group together afterwards and start going. And I'm kind of concerned with the way the times are right now, because it's, after 1 a.m. East Coast time to, get going again. And a lot of our members went ahead and got off, and it was just impossible to find a game yesterday.
All right. Well, with Clan Ghost Bear being international, and Shimmy, I know we have some non-North American players in Aces. Have you guys heard anything specifically from these people? Are they happy with it? Or is there more participation? Or do your do your units have? Pardon me. Do your units have more people on during those times participating? Anyone?
I think I've seen some more of our Euro guys being a bit more participatory now. I mean, it's hard to say with only 2 days of it being so far, but it seems like the overall communication is a bit better, and that people are willing, now that they feel like they actually have a stake in it. The one thing I would say is I don't know what the player base is like for Oceanic, and if we really need that 3rd time window, but that's completely other question.
Shimmy?
Yeah, I have a feeling, I have not checked yet, but I don't think we've ever run a North American primetime CW group, except for once when I started it by playing in the middle of the night. I think Aces has an initiative problem. CW drops usually don't start until myself or Turkon get on our main CW drop leads. So I just need to, poke at our Euro guys, because I will sign on client some nights just to look at something, and I'll see more than 12 aces online. They're just not playing CW. So we'll work on it.
No doubt about it. Now,
Now I have a question for you guys. In regards to the ceasefire, Alexander, your basic saying is, do we need three? That third one, the oceanic. Obviously, the more the merrier is fine. As far as if there are people online, it does suck to know that all of your efforts and you're not going to be rewarded and stuff. So I don't mind the three per se, but do you guys have any other alternatives that you'd like
that's
to
what I was
see?
gonna ask.
Is there any?
Yeah.
Are you if you're
Where
not
do we go from here?
yeah, if you're not happy with the system, do you say, oh well, we give it another 2-3 weeks or 4 weeks? I mean, what are your thoughts
It
on it?
has, yeah, it has only been 2 days, and I do think we need more science. But with criticism, we should offer some ideas. So, Shimmy, what are your thoughts?
I like the idea of three separated, battle times. I've said it a lot. You guys probably heard is instead of having a planet changeover after every ceasefire, have every ceasefire count as a ticket towards a 24-hour cycle. And 3 cycles is good because then you get a kind of best of 3 system going. If one group gets 2 wins throughout the day on a planet and the other group gets 1, the group that gets 2 takes that planet for the day. So each time zone can lock in a solid win that counts equally, regardless of how many players they put up. But at the same time, you can't have, population imbalances, messing with the map.
So you're saying keep 3 ceasefires, but tally the totals for 1 planet change per day.
Yes.
All right, interesting. Alexander?
I like that idea. The only other thing that I could think of would be to go down to 2 12-hour windows. I just don't know. I mean, without having raw data as far as the oceanic numbers, but it just seems like there aren't. I don't think the player base, at least as far as I've seen, really demands a separate oceanic time zone. Again,
if I may cut in, because this will maybe skew your response, it's extremely comparable, the populations.
Oh, well, if that's the case, then I mean, again, that's the time when I usually sleep, so I don't really know. But if that's the case, if there's a population demand for it, then I say it, that would be fine how it is. I do like a ticket system in place, though, because that way you wouldn't get constant, flipping planets every 8 hours, which I think is a bit much at this point.
Erodian, your thoughts?
I gotta have to agree with the other two guys in this. I don't like 3 drops. Or maybe that was just Alex, but I don't like 3 per day. I think if you have a faction imbalance, when if Liao suddenly gets even better with the money income, people start flocking there, and then suddenly they have 60 hundreds of people, and they start getting a planet every single day, 3 planets every single day. And that's just going to shift the momentum, which will probably be a good thing in Liao's case, unless it goes to another faction which can handle the loss of planets. Like with the clans, when you start off, we had, I think Ghost Bear had 2 or 3 down in FRR with something like another 3 over by Clan Wolf. You lose those first three if FRR has a lot of people. Suddenly you're stuck with fighting Clan Wolf for the rest of the CW. So, I mean, dropping to 2 would probably be best in my eyes, but
all right,
we haven't had a lot of time for it.
Would any of you disagree that this was a positive move from 1 to 8? Was it a positive move, or was it a negative move? Did it make it worse? In other words, I'm not saying is it perfect. We've had some suggestions and ideas here, but was it a move in the right direction? Anybody that doesn't think it was? All right, well, we can come back to ceasefire if the topic comes up again, but we're going to move on to the next discussion topic, which is queue times. And queue times have been affected by a couple of the recent updates, the January 20th patch. First being call to arms. And so my question is, in regards to call to arms, are you guys seeing results? Let's see, specifically, the changes are call to arms notifications are now only issued when an opposing team cannot be located within 20 seconds. In other words, there's a team sitting there waiting and nobody is responding. And then call to arms notifications will now indicate how close the pending match is to launching as a 12v0. So is it affecting the gameplay?
Before we go there, I do want to make a point of going over solo players and their experiences, and I think it just needs to be mentioned, the whole call to arms notifications and how important that is, because Shimmy, I was talking to you last night about this, and you're basically saying we're hitting more groups of 12 that are made out of pugs, but we're also getting solo players as well in our matches. And so I just want to make a note, that was a pretty big change, that the call to arms is now working as intended, even though it's a double-edged sword, because you need solo players, but also you may be hitting a lot more solo players, so it's not as much of a competition, I guess, when you drop, and it may be a rollover in steamrolls. But it's also helping coordinate the solo players, which we know there's a ton of them out there. So again, it's just one of those tools where, I know solo players want something to do, they want something more in depth. At least this no longer has them stalling and waiting forever. At least it's working as intended. And maybe what stuff that Russ was talking about, where getting them involved with like other PvE type elements, for community warfare would help out and stuff like that.
All right, so call to arms results. Are you guys seeing any, Alexander?
I mean, I've seen it pop up a couple times today. Again, it's hard to really comment on systems like this that have been only in place a couple days. I do know that my average wait times the last few days have not really gone down, regardless of call to arms. I think the couple matches I was doing earlier before the midday ceasefire window went away was still 15, 20 minutes to try and get a fight in. I think part of that was, we didn't have many guys dropping, so still getting all those solo guys in there. But as far as I've seen, the call to arms was not particularly improving that wait time.
Shimmy.
I think it's been positive. Aces was already, we look at the queues, we were either going for objectives that we know we had to turret drop and didn't really expect an opponent to show up. Certain factions have reputations for showing up within a certain amount of drops, so we expect a battle eventually, but either we went in not caring if we got a fight and it was just pushing an objective, or we went where we knew there was a fight, and in that case we would avoid flooded queues to avoid even longer wait times than a turret drop would be. With the call to arms now, we can drop on a completely empty planet, and rather than turret drop it 2 or 3 times waiting for essentially an enemy 12-man would have to take the initiative to fight us back. Now, usually in about 6 to 8 minutes of countdown time, it'll be filled with pugs and partials. So yesterday, I didn't have any turret drops, I don't think, and I believe our second company had 1. Like I was saying, it's double-edged sword. Now we get more fights, and the solo players are directed towards the fights, but now, instead of fighting an enemy 12-man that stands a chance by taking the initiative, it's a lot more partial teams and solo teams, which we have to, make sure to not stomp too hard, because it's really no contest when it's 12 versus 12 solos. But yes,
Gotcha.
it's been very good. I think it's successful in what it's intended to do.
All right, so Shimmy's seeing some results. Alex, not so much. Erodian, you?
Now my experiences are limited because I'm up north with the clanners, but so we don't really fight amongst each other. So the inner sphere will usually get a good amount of people. So I constantly see that so and so needs defenders, and I like it because as a comp unit we can see it just pops up. Oh, great! Schuler needs defenders. Let's go, guys. And we'll have 8 to 12 drop on that planet, and then hopefully some other randoms will see that. They'll join up, and we'll have ourselves a fantastic game. But I have to disagree with Shimmy on 12v randoms, however. I dropped with a 4-man, and we dropped against a 12-man, and we completely mopped the floor with that 12-man. So I honestly think that it's a little more skill-based as far as the 12s go, because just because you have 12 of you, even if you're on comms, does not a auto-win make.
Do you think that's because of complacency? And then obviously just because they're solo or small groups, that doesn't mean they're bad players, right? So you do have that.
And vice versa. 12-man doesn't mean they're good players. It could just be
Precisely.
Yeah.
I mean, I think you're right, Phil. It might have been a complacency thing with them, but they had plenty of time to notice that there's at least one group of competent people on the other team. So I don't know what you do with that.
All right, moving on to the next topic of queue times, which is faction grouping. Has this? Have you seen any changes from this? Has this helped? Has it changed the less than 12-man group queue? Is it affecting overall queue times? Have you guys dropped yourselves with other people within your faction, not your unit? What do you guys think? First up is Shimmy.
Yeah, I think it's definitely a help. It might not be a major thing, just another small feature that was necessary. Previously, you'd have to go find another friendly merc unit and say, hey, we're dropping here. Would you drop here? It worked well if it was an empty queue, but if you wanted to combine in on a hot planet, that was kind of rolling the dice on if you're going to sync up. Now you can make sure you sync up with the people you want. It's not a perfect feature yet. Like you say, there's more options coming with it, but I like it. But otherwise, it's not majorly significant. Maybe it is for the smaller teams, but Aces, it's usually been, well, we've got 10, let's get 2 more kind of situation.
Yeah, as we mentioned last week, everybody or a lot of people have completely different perspectives, whether you're running solo, small groups, 12-mans, whether you're intersphere or clans, what faction you are within that, and different habits, team speak, whatever. So everybody can have totally different perspectives, and I hope that's what we can achieve by talking to various people, is get different perspectives. But anyway, Rodian, what are you seeing with faction grouping? Has it changed anything?
I've done quite a few faction groups with Ghost Bears when my unit isn't around, and it's enlightening to say the least. It's really fun to drop with somebody that you've never seen before. You've never dropped with them. You don't even know them, and to work with one another on a team speak and to get the job done. It's very cool, and I'm extremely happy that they brought that in. It has changed the game as far as I feel. It's a good +1. Would do
Plus
again.
one game changer. Yeah. One thing that does keep getting brought up is, in running solo or small groups, is how effective and helpful in-game voice would be. As people are mentioning in chat, that is coming in February, so we'll have in-game, hopefully, I think it's going to be TS3. Anyway, so that should be a big changer too that we'll discuss on a coming roundtable. But anyway, Alexander, what are your thoughts on faction grouping?
I mean, I think I'd agree with Arrow that it's been nice to be able to group with some other people. I think, if anything, it's a step in the right direction, but we need another step. And I think that's, why not, if all clans can defend clan planets from intersphere attacks, and all intersphere players can defend intersphere planets against clan attacks, then why not have a group option for those people as well, if they just want to do those defense type matches?
Interfaction grouping.
Yeah, interfaction grouping. Because I mean, very often, being a clan player, I'll run up, I'll be fighting in the FRR, and I'll see Steiner units, and I'll see, Drac units, and I'll see, Leal units. But they, it's all mixed. Why can't they all just, get grouped together if that's what they want to do?
All right, that sounds good. I'm going to try and move through queue times a little quicker here. There are some other topics, so if any of you have anything to say about just overall planetary queue information, the info that we're getting now, what more information you'd like to see, the 10-minute countdown, and just the overall queue time, player and faction population, how that impacts the queue time, as well as solo and small groups versus 12-man groups. Do any of you have anything to say on queue times with those topics? If not, okay, Rodian, what do you have to say?
I've seen time and time again with this new system they just put in, we will sit in a queue during the 10-minute countdown, waiting for either that auto win or to get another group to come in, and we'll go until 2 minutes till, and all the while we're wondering, how has the map changed? Did anybody look at the time until ceasefire and that sort of thing? So I think adding the ceasefire, the timer, in the lobby would be a great addition. That would really help, because now that I think about it, even when I drop solo and the ceasefire is coming in, and I don't look at it, and so I'm sitting in the lobby waiting for those last 3 people, and they never come in, and so I end up getting annoyed and leave to only find out, oh, I've been sitting in ceasefire for 10 minutes. It'd be nice to know that, oh wait, you're in ceasefire, you might as well just leave your queue if you don't have all your people.
Gotcha.
So
Some
that would
indicator.
be great. Yeah, that would be great. And then just the planet win-loss, have that be auto-updated if it's possible. Because it's kind of weird when you finally do get a game, it says counterattack, and you're attacking your own spot, and you're like, what?
Yeah.
So.
Okay, cool. Alex?
I actually have a point that Shimmy brought up earlier, in which he said, we got to be careful about how bad we stomp those small and solo groups for the versus a full 12-man. And I think right now with the the wait times are getting better, but they're still it's still taking 10 minutes, maybe 15 to get into a match. And so somebody's spending 10-15 minutes, they're getting into a match, and then they're getting stomped by a 12-man. And right now, I don't think for the losing side that there's really enough either in the LP system or even just the end of match rewards to keep those smaller groups and those solo players coming back to CW on a frequent basis. I think that's something that the sooner that gets addressed, because the bottom line is, if you're going to get stomped and it takes you an hour, or you could have done 5 solo drops in normal queue at that time and made significantly more money, especially the players that are playing this as a free-to-play game, are going to stick with the standard queue.
Yeah, I hear you. This kind of touches on the whole topic and issue of, is community warfare really geared towards the 12-mans, or how welcoming should it be to solo players and small groups? And
Well,
obviously controversial topic, but
there's a
yeah.
ton to it. I mean, you've got multiple levels of skill out there. Let's just look at 12-mans. I mean, you have multiple levels of 12-mans out there, right? You have some units that are apparently down south that don't fight the clans or whatnot. They're fighting other units. You have other units up top, north, in the middle. You have so many wide variety. And then in the middle of it, you have solo and small groups. Like, what is the solution there? Like, you need the solo players to supplement the varying group size. You need them. It's a must. Without it, the matchmaker doesn't work. Unless you were to basically say you have to have 12-mans. Well, if you do, you just have to have 12-mans, you're going to lose your, a lot of people because they don't want to join a unit, they don't have time, whatnot. But is that the way to go? Is that better for overall gameplay? And then how do you flip it the other way? How do you incentivize 12 people to drop solo or small groups and know that, from a skill and perspective, they're going to run into a 12-man and get raffle stomped? How do you basically tell them, oh, it's okay, guys, don't worry? Do you incentivize it C-bills? I don't think it's worth it for me. Like, as a player, if I'm dropping solo and I run into just nonstop decked out 12-mans all the time and I keep getting stomped, now someone could say, well, you need to join a unit. Look, some people don't have the time. But is that an argument to say, well, you just have to suck it up, buttercup, sort of thing? Take it with a grain of salt.
It's a damned if you do, damned if you don't. Yes, I mean, there's going to be people on both sides of that argument. There will be people that absolutely say, well, if you don't have time to do community warfare, then you shouldn't be doing community warfare. I mean, it's and I'm not saying that that's my perspective, whether or not it is. But anyway, queue times. Shimmy, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I wanted to first agree with Rodian. it would be great to have all the info overlays that we have while looking at the map to still be visible while we queue, knowing when ceasefire comes. If you're in a a coordinated command structure like where with Davian, you could at least go to command and say, hey guys, are we ceasefire? Should we pull out, etc. But it's also nice to see, well, how many people are queued while we're waiting in the queue here? Are we, sitting at the end of 100 people waiting in line? Another thing that would be cool to add is like a graph, a progress graph of like the last 8-hour cycle. How has this planet gone up and down? How hot has it been? To even better
More info.
judge. Yeah, more info.
Yep.
More info is always good. And I guess on the subject of, where it tangented off into the solos versus 12s, yeah, some yesterday we're fighting on a planet, and I knew I had 2 companies on it, and there's maybe a third company that was also a 12-man we knew of, and we're fighting all these partials nonstop, and we're, every chat we'd say, or game we'd say, hey guys, I know it's just aces here. If you're not liking getting rolled, you may consider going to another border. We know they want to play the game. We don't want to tell them to not play the game, but we are trying to keep it enjoyable for them, because we go in, we know we're going to win. We try to give fights to the people that, stay honorable about it. If people trash talk us in the chat all game, we're going to make sure they have a bad time. That's about it, I think.
All right, we did have another Aces member join us. Catrikel, Brandon, welcome.
Hey, how's it going, guys?
Real quick, your name and your unit and your position within the unit.
Second here, just getting my mic set up properly again. Brandon, also known as Catrikel, Armored Combat Escalation Services, also known as ACES, and CEO and leader.
Right on. Okay, well, we're just moving through the discussion topics. Brandon, chime in, X up below if there's something you have to say. Erodian, I'm going to move on to the next discussion topic. Sorry if you were wanting to talk about queue times, but I do want to get through the list. The next one is actually something we were just touching on, which is rewards. And this can be match rewards or planetary ownership rewards, loyalty points, any of those things, if you guys have something to say about that. And something we did mention last time is, and we mentioned already this time as well, the comparison of the in-match rewards, C-bill bonuses, earnings, etc., from doing regular solo queue and group queue compared to doing community warfare. And what we asked last time, is community warfare really about being an even comparison? Is it about making the C-bills, or is it about something totally different? Or does it not matter? You should be able to make a good amount no matter what you're doing. If anybody has something to say about rewards, go ahead and X up.
Well, going back to what we were talking about last week, which is, should solo players be able to make a living, make as much C-bills as they do in the solo queue? Part of me says, no, that's the whole point of solo and group queue. But then the other side of me says, well, dude, community warfare is 24/7. If you want these people to participate, you need to incentivize it, especially because there is no, all it is right now is C-build and loyalty point. There's nothing beyond that. And I do believe that we're supposed to find out a little bit about that in the next month. Loyalty points is going to be expanded on and stuff like that. But it still goes back to, is there enough incentive to, especially with how brutal solo play is, to keep them around? I mean, I've talked to a lot of people, again, going back to sort of the last topic, and this one is, a lot of solo players are just not going back to community warfare because it's just not fun. And, fun is defined in a, wide variety of opinions.
Differently for different people, yeah.
Yeah, but,
Yeah.
Fun usually results from success. Like, you don't always have to win, but to be successful, especially in a game, is winning every once in a while, winning sometimes, or at least feeling like you had a good time, right? And I still think that when it comes to rewards, either if the current environment is not fun for solo players, then I'm not going to play. I'm gonna go play solo queue where it's where I don't have to worry about 12 Stormcrows or 12 Thunderbolts and stuff like that. Now, some people out there like it as a challenge, and again, it's a different opinion of what's fun and stuff like that. But just a C-bill or loyalty point buff isn't incentive for me to just get my ass kicked all the time. So, like I said, I think it has to be more than that. There has to be something for solo players that's different than if you're grouped up. I don't know what that is, and I don't think it should just be C-bill or LP or something. It has to be something.
Yeah, and the other thing is, like, okay, first of all, seeing the C-bill payout of the community warfare matches, is there any downside to that? Is there any harm in it? One thing I'm concerned about is I know some people, it's either individuals or units that are very effective with community warfare. They know how to drop, they know how to get matches quickly. They're not doing a lot of downtime and waiting in queues, and they're winning percent or more of the time, and they're making bank. I mean, they're making a lot of money, C-bills. And so the question is, if you are increasing C-bill payouts, or is that going to way out of whack for some people? Or some people going to be like Scrooge McDuck rolling in it? So let's go back to your responses on rewards. Shimmy, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think, I have a feeling PGI's intent already is to try and balance C-bill income between all game modes. At least that's historically what they've done. And I think that would be fair if they could somehow balance CW to pay roughly the same. But we have now long matches, 4 spawns. You've got 4 times the ability to farm extra hard, 4 times the ability to have a terrible game. Because of queue times and match length, I think it would be pretty safe to, as was discussed before, increase the flat rate match payout just for participating. Giving a good, even 100, 200k C-bills just for being there, even if it meant nerfing, actual, performance rewards would really help the solos out. But ultimately, there's just so many options with how PGI can reward play that I really can't say any one way, this is how it should be done. There are a lot of great ways it could be done, but I just don't know.
Erodian.
Yeah, I think the rewards are pretty, mind my French, pretty shit. Great.
So you say increase them?
Oh, definitely. I mean, it's great when you're now, like, I think I'm at rank 14 in loyalty, and you're getting 7, 8, 10 million when you get a rank up. That's great. That's totally fine. But when you just get rank 1, and I think it was only like 500 or 50,000 C-bills, which granted is not hard to get, it's still, I think there needs to be an increase. Throw maybe some more mech bays in there, give people more incentive to wanting to both stick with a faction, and as well as increasing the negatives for fighting opponent factions. Like, you lose in loyalty points when you fight and kill other factions, so increase that to make people want to stick with their chosen faction. Maybe limit it when it comes to mercs, because we know they're going to be jumping around. I don't know.
All right, that makes sense.
I got a rebuttal to that,
think,
but though,
Phil
aren't you
wants
just
to comment?
aren't you just padding the successful units already? I mean, that's the thing that Darren was just saying is, you guys aren't hurting for C-bills. You guys got C-bills rolling around, and people make a ton of money because all you're doing is you're raffle stomping units 24/7, and all you're doing is you're padding the top percent. And okay, yeah, they may be making more, but again, you're just rewarding basically people who, you know what I'm saying?
Rewarding successful people, but is that wrong? Is that right? I don't know.
Well,
Yeah,
reward. Can you?
the main...
If I drop solo, how can I control the success of a match? Most of the time, you can't. And that's what I'm trying to say is rewarding
and that might
it.
take us back to
You're square one. You're basically exactly where you are right now, except the people at the top are getting richer and richer and richer.
So how do we normalize the experience?
Erodian's got
or
a
the
rebuttal to
disparity
my
between
rebuttal.
Somebody dropping solo. Okay, that's fine. And don't worry, we'll get to you, Alexander. But how do you minimize the disparity between somebody dropping solo in warfare and a trained, practicing on a regular basis 12-man in Community Warfare? Should the XP be close? Should it be similar? Or should it not? But anyway, Rodian, what's your rebuttal?
Phil, I've been dropping on my own alt account, and it has a total of 1 mech, and it is very rough as a quote-unquote new person to join into CW. It is just terrible. And I already think it's terrible just in normal drops. It's terrible to be a new person. But CW is like a whole new level of pain as far as a new player is concerned. So it's not to increase the rewards so that you or I or anybody in this room who we all know has lots of money, except for maybe Alex because he's poor. That's not the point. The point is helping the folks out there who maybe don't play as much as we do. They need the money more than we do. It's not going to change how we do things when the rewards as far as C-bills get increased. We're more concerned about maybe GXP or MCs or anything that we can do to save us real money when other people just want the C-bills so they can get that cool 3 mech and master it sort of thing.
Well, and I totally agree. But I agree with exactly what you just said. Solos or smaller groups, and we mentioned this last week, which we said a multiplier for group size. If you're dropping solo, you get a X multiplier, and obviously the bigger the group size, you get less rewards for that. Now, someone just mentioned in chat, if pilots at the top have put in their dues and blah, 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 you're not getting penalized. The reality of it is you do have an economy in the game. And if the economy in Community Warfare just basically says, oh, hey, the groups that are basically getting wins 24/7, you guys are going to get even more money. And it doesn't really solve the issue, which is we're talking about income disparity. The solo players or smaller groups will not make as much because they're losing. And obviously one of the solutions can also be PvE elements for 4v4 matches like Russ talked about in the town hall and stuff like that.
And there's also kind of the question in the back of my mind, is Community Warfare something that was meant to be part of the new player experience? So maybe not. But Alex, we're not going to forget you. Do you have any ideas or thoughts on rewards?
I mean, this is one of those topics where everyone has a different suggestion until we get, something even remotely in place, because everyone here knows that there's a problem at the moment. We just don't know what the best way to fix it is. I've heard ideas of, even in chat just now, somebody said, like a CW cadet reward bonus for showing up your first several matches, padding the lower end so that even if you lose a match terribly, you're still making, instead of the paltry 200,000 C-bills, you're making something like 300,000 or 400,000. I don't know if there's any right solution to this, because we can all just guess at it, but I think the sooner we get something in place to make those solo players not feel like, man, because the bottom line is, if people feel like I just played CW and wasted an hour of my time, they're not going to come back to it. But if at the end of that hour they're like, man, we got stopped, but at least I got, a lot closer to buying that next fire starter, the next thing. Always put something tangible in front of them that they can be like, oh man, that, I may have just got wiped completely, but I still made 500,000 C-bills. I still did better than I would have done in solo queue for playing for that hour.
Interesting. Well, anyway, I'm not going to give my personal opinion on that. Shimmy, you got a thought?
Yeah, I just think maybe I didn't say it as clearly before, but I would just reiterate, if you nerfed the performance rewards and just flat rated everyone, hey, you could even pay everybody conquest style, the amount of time spent in match is paid to you as well. You could even go outside and reward for the map, say, if you're in a match and during the time you're playing, your faction is either successfully running up or successfully running down a planet, even if you lose, you acted as a delay action. Pay players for being around during general success of the faction. If you remove, lower the pay for performance and kind of pay everyone for general participation, the winning teams will still make more, but it doesn't leave the losers out in the cold.
I think,
Phil, your closing thoughts on...
Well, I think one of the toughest thing here is, just like you said, Shimmy, a lot of this isn't in yet, though. I mean, a lot of this depends on what's happening next month, right? We've got VoIP that's not in, Command Will that's not in. Two pretty big tools that'll help during matches for either solo group or community warfare, right? I mean, we've got the fact of right now there's really no incentive for taking planets and stuff like that. There's nothing just LP. That's going to be expanded upon next month, right? But it has to be tangible things. You have the issue of basically solo experience right now is horrible. You drop in the majority. I would it would be interesting seeing the win loss percent if you're dropping solo. I would say it's probably pretty rough. Let's just put it that way. I mean, statistics would probably that's one thing we could probably ask, but also that even when you move up, 12v12 or bigger group sizes, you do have a wide variety of skill, and of course, again, we go back to that win loss, being successful and enjoying the game. There's just so many things right now that aren't in that really will make community warfare even better and make it so people are enjoying themselves, which, in my opinion, is the biggest thing. I mean, but is solo players supposed to be in community warfare? That question keeps getting brought up. Should community warfare just be groups and groups only? And then on top of that, like you've got the fact of solo players. Are they? I almost want to say I think they're needed. Like I don't think you can take solo players out of the queue and make community warfare work because we've had 12 mans before. We had a 12-man queue, and no one played it. Only the top tier comp teams played it. Because why? Because they're that damn good. And anytime you drop against them, most teams, I'm not saying all, so there are units that like the challenge and stuff, but the majority of people that were dropping against them never wanted to play it again because basically they just got raffle stumped. So I think the goal, and this is something that I think Paul really needs to address, and Russ, is where do we see solo players, right? If the next 6 months, year is just basically how the current situation is, solo players are just like, hey, sorry guys, I wouldn't want to play. And I feel like solo players are a large population that needs to be tapped into. And if you can get that, awesome. But if not, I think you're just going to see less and less players dropping solo in community warfare.
Yeah, I think it's definitely got to be decisive. I mean, I said earlier I wasn't going to give my personal opinion, but I guess I like to talk and I'm going to. Um, I'll just be honest. Personally, for me, community warfare is all about the 12 man, and it's all about groups, and it's all about units. And I have nothing against people playing solo. I do it, and I think it's great, and there's all kinds of opportunity for it. But I just feel things like community warfare, that's what it's about. It's about unit play. It's about, communication and tactics and strategy and working together as a group. And that's the payoff. You play, you play the group queue and the solo queue, you earn a bunch of money, get your mechs and so forth. You make friends, you get into a unit, and that's the payoff. That's like, to me, this is the end game content. For me, again, because that's my opinion, and I don't see it, community warfare as something that I use to grind. I don't even care about my C-bills. When I get out of a match, C-bills are the last thing on my mind. What makes this fun for me, and you're talking about success, making it fun for people. What makes it fun for me is sitting in a group with 12 people and just that experience, everybody working together and winning. And, it's that. Now, of course, again, yes, this is 100% me. I'm not saying that everybody needs to think the same way I do or anything like that. But that's just kind of where I'm coming from. And maybe some people think I'm an asshole for saying that. I'm not saying, fuck the solo players and the small groups in any way whatsoever. They're a huge part of the population of this game. And I definitely think that they need to be addressed, and their experience is as important as anybody else's. It's just as important as the top 12 man or the top comp team or whatever. But I just think I feel a lot of times with community warfare, we're trying to, fit the circle into the square or whatever, and the peg or whatever. It just, the new player experience for community warfare, to me, I just don't know how this stuff is going to get worked out. But like I said, I think it needs to be decided one way or the other, and then 100% of that effort needs to go into making it work for whatever we're talking about. But anyway, we are going to kind of skip over planetary ownership rewards and loyalty points. There will be more information or more things coming up with loyalty points, like Phil said, next month. So I'm sure that these are things that we'll get back into discussing, but we're going to move on to the next discussion topic. Phil, you want to take us into that?
Yeah, ghost drops and turret drops. How's your guys' experience been since the change? I know it's been 2 days, but I think it's been, I know statistically we saw what it's down to like 8% compared to like 12 or 14 or 16, something like that. I think someone posted. What is your guys' experience so far? Erodi?
I don't like ghost drops at all. I mean, yay, we gotta win on your planet, but it doesn't feel right. I mean, you just run in here, you blow up the gates if you don't have jump jitters. If you have jump jitters, you just jump over the gate.
Would you just
Destroy
get rid of it?
done.
Just say, fuck it. Just why even bother? Just meh. Just give us the win and let us go play an actual real match?
See, now there's the conundrum, because you need these things, because having no system at all leaves God knows how many people just sitting there with their thumb up their butts going, well, sure would be nice if the enemy would play, and then it ends up being the best way to play CW is to not play at all. And that obviously isn't a solution. So either you need to, at the very least, throw in some sort of AI, tanks, whatever it'll end up being, to give some quote unquote fun to the fact that no one is there, or reduce it. Like, let's say you're at least 75% wins on a world, no more ghost drops. Sorry. And it would go the same way if you're defending and you have 25% or less, no more ghost drops for that as well, you know? So that way you hopefully don't see planet flips just because of ghost drops, which is what a lot of people are angry at and complain about, is the fact that you lose planets sometimes because the other faction just had more people than you.
What about you, Shimmy?
Yeah, as far as encountering them, almost at least gone in our experience the last 2 days. Our old play was, okay, we attack Liao, and maybe within 2 or 3 turret drops, they show up to fight. Yesterday and the day before, it was they show up within 6 to 8 minutes of queuing for every fight. So, one, we haven't encountered as many turret drops anymore. Two, as I think they are necessary, and as far as wait 10 minutes and go into your drop, I think that is okay as it is. Definitely the problem then is people feel like they need to make more money for being that dedicated to wait in line to fight nobody. So eventually that would be AI targets that, killing will pay you money, less than fighting a real opponent, but pay. And in the meantime, I think just increase the flat rate payout for winning a turret drop. Reward people, because I think turret dropping, at times it's necessary, and it takes, dull dedication to do it. I think that should be rewarded. But the idea of turret drop capping, like maybe you can't go higher than 60% percentage on a planet, because yes, it's frustrating when you sign on and somebody has ghost dropped your planet up to 100% overnight. It doesn't happen as much now with the 3 cycle, but it's frustrating because now you have to spend an hour and a half counter dropping it, and the enemy doesn't even have to show up. They just waste your time. So yeah, cap it out at 60 or lower, higher percentage. Let you ghost cap a planet if the enemy side lets you, but don't make it so easy.
There have been some thoughts out there. Some people obviously saying, there shouldn't be any turret drops at all. If you make it that far and nobody shown up to oppose you, then just automatically get your payouts or whatever and move on. And some people saying make it more challenging, so it's not just an auto win. Put a bunch of AI in there or whatever. I think it's moving in the right direction.
Can I ask a question?
Want, for the most part.
What does it add to the game? Like, is there any depth to it? Because
well, I think like Shimmy said, it's kind of a necessary evil right now because there's no way kind of around it. But that's kind of what these suggestions might be. I don't know.
Because if you didn't have anything, they would just be sitting there. The planet would, do you reduce it down to like 1/4 a win? I mean, obviously right now there's no AI, and AI is not happening within the next whatever time frame, probably 6+ months. I'm just tossing it out there because I don't know.
Right.
Is there any? It just seems to me, like you said, it's a dull thing. To me, that's like, why? Like, just, is there another way around it to where it's not
Well,
dull?
sometimes you can't get the enemies to respond. Most of the time, the turret drops I've seen, we're dropping on a planet that nobody's defending, and we're trying to get them to come and defend. And if they don't, then you spend X amount of time doing turret drops, and yeah, they're freaking boring. You can wait, 20 minutes, you get in there, you run the turrets, you do and it's hard to get. But I mean, again, that's where having a unit and a bunch of friends and you're all sitting there talking on comms is a good thing. But I think it's a necessary evil, and that it needs to continue to be examined and looked at and made better, whether or not that's removing them altogether or increasing the difficulty.
People are saying that they would bot them. They would write a script. I mean, I'm seeing this in chat. People are saying if it's an automatic win, people would exploit it. It's sort of exploited right now, but it's just a waste of time. I mean, that's why I'm asking. I mean, I'm not for or against them, but well, actually, I'm sort of against them. But like,
Yeah.
what is the point?
Caps.
Does
I
it?
think caps on getting it up to 100% on turret drops. Not a big fan of that. But anyway, I think we've discussed that issue enough. We can definitely come back to it as more changes come to turret drops in the future. Let's move on to maps. Now, first of all, we have the new Canyon Network theme map coming in February, early February, I think is what they said. I'll get that confirmed. But anyway, and then obviously AI comes into effect here as well a little bit, maybe. So your guys' thoughts on the maps that we currently have for Community Warfare? Of course, we have Boreal Vault and Sulfurous Rift. Any ideas or suggestions, thoughts, things you like, things you don't like? You can talk about dropships, turrets, generators, whatever you want in regards to the maps. Erodian.
Before I start, I think Erodian would love a swamp map with things to hinder him everywhere. I think that's what Erodian would like.
I am going no. Then I get nukes to make it all
more
flat.
twigs and sticks. Yes.
No. What I'm about
Erodian,
to say
your
will
thoughts?
totally show that we are not on a script, and we are not saying, "Oh, PGI, you were so good." I think they flubbed CW in the drop with only 2 maps. At first everybody's like, great, CW's here, yay, these maps are awesome, and they were. There's nothing wrong with the maps per se. I'm quite pleased with them, except I think one of the maps is too hot, but whatever. You needed more maps when you drop this sucker on us, because it's shown in the weeks ahead that it has just killed it. We need more maps, and we should have dropped it at least 5, in my personal opinion. 5 different maps. And they've changed it since the very beginning, in that now we have to destroy the generators to get to the gun itself, which has subsided the rush, which is great. That was a good thing. And I think they should go further with adding things to the map, because you can still be rushed by a competent team. And having something like a secondary objective or something else that you have to do, make the maps bigger. Make these things twice as big. Well, that might not work with FPS, but the idea of make them twice as big, and have these cool things like, okay, on the right of Boreal, you gotta destroy the mech bays, and suddenly instead of waiting 30 seconds for your next drop, you gotta wait 35. Or there's a turret power generator that's powering all the turrets an extra 25% damage. Blow that up, they're now down to 75% damage. Things that can ebb and change the flow for the attackers, while also giving cool benefits for the defenders, I think could really spice things up and breathe a little more life into this.
All right. So Erodian says more maps, bigger maps, and more things and stuff. Brandon, your thoughts?
First, I want to say Boreal is probably the best Community Warfare map out of the 2 that we have right now. The flow and stuff like that is really good. My particular issue is with Sulfurous Rift for a defender is definitely way too hard, especially when you compare it to something like with Boreal. So, as with Sulfurous, once you get past the doors, then that's it. That's game over, because you're right on the generator. Whereas with Boreal, once you get past the gates, there's another small section where you have to clump back up again. There's like a small killing field area. It opens up a little bit wider again, but there's at least an area that you have to travel through in order to get to the generators and that sort of thing. So there's a small little killing field. I think Sulphurous, if you pushed back the generators and stuff like that into the cliffside behind it a little bit more to open up, so you have the 3 paths and then it converges into one area and then straight a little bit, then the generators and stuff like that. I think Sulphurous would be a lot better. I understand, I can see what they're kind of doing with Sulphurous Rift, but that's my biggest gripe. Sulphurous Rift isn't fun to drop on as a defender.
All right, Alexander.
I mean, we could say what changes we'd like to make to the current maps, and they may or may not get put in place. But I think in the future, what I'd like to see out of Canyon and any other maps is a bit more variety in playstyle. Right now, both Boreal and Sulphurous cater to having pretty long sight lines. It does you no benefit to bring close range weapons, SRMs and AC-20s and things of that nature, versus, I mean, your PPCs and ER larges and things like that work at all range. And right now, I think that's one of the bigger problems with the 2 maps we have is it's come down to there's 8 viable mechs and 6 viable builds. And the big thing is, I think if we started changing around the way a couple of those maps work, especially the future ones, and give a bit more variety to play style, where now you're getting some medium range engagements, now you're getting some definite close range engagements. I think that'll kind of help if you deviate the play style that's currently cropped up, and is it's you either bring that or you lose.
I think another big elephant in the room is the horrible performance you get in Community Warfare. I think we do have to discuss that because it is based on the maps. If you look at Boreal Vault and you're facing, when you first drop out of the dropship and you're attacker and you're facing the mountains, FPS is normal. Turn around and watch your FPS just drop. And I have a very nice computer, luckily, and it still starts to tank. And I can't stress how the performance of maps, and we see this all over, just the art side of things, performance. It's not scripting. I know that. I think it's the gun. When you, like, I don't know what it is. As soon as that gun comes into view, it just frickin' tanks. And I don't understand it because I know what, this is one of those things, Darren, that Side Strafe would agree. He's like, I've seen what other people can do with CryEngine 3 and a cooling and stuff like that, which is basically if it's so far out, it uses a lower LOD and stuff like this, blah, blah, blah. But the performance is just absolutely horrible in Community Warfare. And not everybody has a nice computer. So first off, if you drop and you're below 30 FPS, I wouldn't play. And I know there's people that suffer through that. So that just has to be addressed. And I don't know if it's the dead mechs or it just needs to be fixed. And that sort of goes back to the whole game in general, though, that's one of the things I hope in 2015, which is a art pass and a performance pass that just has to be addressed. Because if that's not addressed, you're just going to continue to shut people off from being able to play it.
Yeah, I'm watching chat. Obviously PGI is the one that has to figure these out. I totally agree. I mean, I run in low settings when I'm playing, and I have a decent computer. But everybody, what I was saying about chat is everybody thinks it's something else. It's this, it's that. Hopefully PGI can figure it out. Now, in regards to, and I totally agree. Actually, that was a discussion topic further down, but you're right. If you think it's map related, then appropriate to talk about it here. Any other thoughts on maps? One thing, Erodian, hopefully that we're going to see is quicker map generation now, because as Russ mentioned in the town hall, basically they're going to be using all the assets and resources of current maps. For example, they're doing the Canyon Network themed and then so forth and so on with other themed maps from current maps that we already have in the regular queue. So hopefully they'll come quicker. That's not necessarily a good idea or good news for people who keep, I want this or that type of map represented yet in the normal queue, but hopefully we'll get around to, making new assets and new maps quickly as well. But I do think that we need more maps quickly in Community Warfare. But let's move on, unless anybody has anything to say wrapping up maps.
The Canyon Network theme map, just in theory, without actually seeing how it looks, could be a very unique map, because basically that's one of the issues with like Boreal Vault. Boreal Vault plays to long-range engagements because of the sightlines, huge sightlines, right? And then the reverse is true on Sulphurous Rift.
Sulphurous, yeah.
Once you get into the gates, it's a little bit different. But on the gates pushing up, you take out the turrets, gate open. You'll sometimes see long-range engagements take place. But once you get in, you're right on top of the generator. A Canyon Network theme map, I would stress to the mappers designing it, is you need to make sure that there's enough buffer between the gates and where the generators and stuff are, but you don't make it too far out to where it's just extremely powerful for the defenders, or vice versa, extremely powerful for the attackers. I think that's really important, and the placement of the generators as well.
Agreed. So let's move on to the next discussion topic, which is going to be tactics and strategies. We didn't get to this last week, so yay, we get to some new topics now. So if you have any comments on things like the light rush or the stalling tactic when you're going up against comp teams or clans, long range versus brawling. There's been some people that complain about the play to win meta tryhards versus the play to have fun anti-meta people. Any of those topics, do any of you have any thoughts on tactics and strategies? If not, that will be fine. We can move on. Shimmy, you have something to say?
I mean, we got to talk about this, right?
Yeah.
Aces, we've been having a blast in CW because for the first time, the outcome of the match, regular matches have some you'd call random chance when people make a mistake, but largely it's the team that goes in with the best maneuvering and gunnery skill and plays aggressively wins. Now in CW, you can bring in mind games, and we'll just call them underhanded tactics, and there's many more options to win your match. Aces, we immediately set out to find the best ways to run waves, whether it's light waves or ranged or brawlers. We realize, if you really focus and refine each wave for a specific purpose, you get a lot more out of it than what we see a lot of teams do, where they just kind of bring a mixture of mechs and roll in and shoot things and kind of push forward. It's been fun. Anybody who's played against us knows we do run the light Zerg. We can usually blow all the generators up in one wave, and then depending on our opponent, if we want to save time, we can quickly mop up the last gen, or we can stick around and fight. Is definitely, people got bored of just light rushing and turret drops, no pay, long wait times, short matches. So now we fight a bit more, but likewise we refine the fighting waves to get the most kills as well. So, and then, of course, the match starts with the opponent complaining we're about to Zerg them, and then by the second wave they complain that we're farming them. It's hard to win when you against the mood of the enemy, when you set out to win your match. That's what we do. We set out to win, no matter what. So we like it. We know we upset people, though.
Do you have a problem with farming? What's your opinion on that? Me?
I think it's weird because farming, there's deliberate farming where most say when the defenders move out to the attackers spawn, and they like that, I'd really call farming. When you're attacking and you move, you manage to push all the way into their base, kill all the turrets, and to get to their generator, you kind of have to be right where they spawn. I don't know. I leave that up to the individual to decide if it's bad or not. But ultimately, if we're either rushing down your generator and it sucks for everybody, or we're fighting you and the odds are we might outgun you, and that kind of results in a high kill ratio that you could call farming. So no, I don't have a problem with farming. I think that's just the result of one team being better than the other.
Erodian, are you a hunter or are you a farmer? What are your thoughts on tactics and strategies?
What if I hunt farmers?
Oh, snap.
There you go. You can steal their...
Are they tasty?
Steal their goods.
They're kind of stringy.
So what are your thoughts?
Let's see here. Light Rush. Light Rush isn't much of a problem I see anymore. It used to be, but with the addition of generators, that has kind of fixed the problem, I think. We could probably use a few more turrets, I think. I don't think that adding more would really hurt the attacker's chances much at all. I mean, turrets usually don't last long, so adding a few more would be great. Stalling. I have done stalling, and I have had stalling done to me, and it's just something you're just gonna have to get used to, because unless they do something like ridiculous, where if you're the attackers and you haven't even brought down the gates and you have 5 minutes left, y'all die. Well, it's just gonna happen. It's a fact of life, like taxes. Long range. Yeah, long range is going to do the same thing as stalling. We either need to add more cover, but in doing that, you're just going to possibly give either side too much of an advantage. So maybe you shouldn't have to. I mean, it's a tough call on long range, because both sides, Inner Sphere and Clan, have abilities and weaponry that they can use to their advantage on the long range. Inner Sphere has the PPC Thunderbolt. We have large lasers and fast mediums that can pack those large lasers. So it's just a matter of quid pro quo as far as long range, and play to win meta tryhards versus play to have fun anti-meta. Ooh, that's a tough one.
Well,
I mean,
if you're going into community warfare, shouldn't you be trying to win?
Right, but I think the topic is on this fact that you got some Inner Sphere people who will bring nothing but the, say, PPC Thunderbolts for their first wave because they want the range, and then the Clanners will bring nothing but Helbies and Crows. I'd like to have a mixture of both. I mean, I think there's a time and place for the meta tryhard, gotta get it done, and if we can add value to planets, that's where that will come in. And you'll know you want to bring your best for that. But if you're just playing on a backwater world or something that doesn't have much value, you should just bring what you want to play for fun. And obviously, fun always will be depending on the person or people's. Some people have fun bringing the meta tryhard stuff. Some people don't. And to each their own. There's nothing wrong with that. And a lot of people get miffed at that, and I don't think they really understand that we're all just here to have fun. It's just how we get that, is the maze.
Okay, so question for you, Clanners, is obviously the topic.
Soapbox.
No, the topic of balance. You said long range combat 9S. You guys can bring ER larges. What is your guys' tactics? Do you see the 9S as an issue? Do you see the long range engagement played more towards IS or Clan? Because I have my opinion, but I want to hear from the word of the babe, the Clanners. So Rodian?
I can go with just a few games that me and Alex were doing, I think this afternoon. We had some random people at that. This wasn't even a full 12-man or a big group. They had brought literally nothing but Thunderbolt 9Ss for the first round, and we could not attack the generators. We were on attack on Boreal, and they were just sitting on the hill and doing suppressive fire. And I'm telling you, suppressive fire, these PPCs would not stop. And there's a problem with that. Some people say, well, the Inner Sphere has to have something good to counter the clans, and I totally agree. We can't have the clans be super overpowered like they are in tabletop. That's wrong. But at the same level, Inner Sphere can bring a mech that can fire all 3 PPCs, alphaing at least twice, sometimes 3, depending on the map, for 30 points of damage pinpoint, where the Clanners can only bring mechs with maybe 2 PPCs, 3, if you really want to get iffy on that heat scale. So I really think that the Clanners need to have that ability to also bring a long-range pinpoint PPC or something, because right now we only have large lasers. And unless you get the drop on them or they don't notice you, you're not going to kill somebody with that, because you have to watch that person until that beam's done, while the Thunderbolts can kind of peek over that hill just like the Stalkers do, fire those 2 peeps, and do at least 20 points of damage. So there needs to be some balancing work done, yeah.
All right. What about you, Alex?
I mean, this is. I think we're almost starting to segue into the drop decks and the next discussion topic, if that's where you guys were headed
Yep.
next. But there's clearly, as the skill level of the people in your CW drop goes up, the number of mechs and types of mechs they're bringing clearly goes down. My deck hasn't changed since week 2. And it's been Timberwolves, Stormcrows, the occasional Mad Dog, and whatever light I feel is like the most least useless out of what I have in my arsenal at the moment. But and the same thing goes with the IS side. I mean, as you go up the ladder and more people are starting to pay attention to things like MetaMex and tier 1 platforms versus 2 and 3, you're seeing your whole first wave of the enemy team is 10 Thunderbolt 9S's and 2 Stalkers that sit back a little bit further, and it's one of those things where the 240 drop tonnage limit is a big part of determining that, because right now you're more of a detriment to your team if you bring those big assaults and things like that, something that could counter those early those heavy chassis that are just boating. But if you bring that assault to try and counter that, and you lose that assault to those heavies, now you're in a major hole for the rest of the match in terms of tonnage you've given up to start the fight with. And I just, I think a lot of that's tied to the 240 tonnage limit, and I know they've said that that's going to be kind of changing, maybe somehow tied to certain planets and certain maps. But right now there are only so many chassis that are, tier 1 usable chassis against other teams trying to do that meta build right now.
Now, on the reverse side, I want to get
Yeah,
Shimmy.
and in closing regarding...
I think Darren has like a delay because he...
Oh boy.
Yeah. Okay, Shimmy and Baronet. I want to hear you guys' opinions because, of course, do you have a rebuttal to that? Do you have your own opinions? 9S, Clan, Laser Vomit. Shimmy.
Yeah, I think the 9S. I'll concede it's, at least as far as I think the tier list was aimed at balancing IS mechs to IS mechs. The 9S, head and shoulders above other things. Does it need a big nerf? No. I mean, I just think 50% heat reduction is kind of ridiculous. Bring it down to 40. See from there. It's still bad. Bring it down to 30. I don't run PPCs on my 9S. I run for ER large just for that flat rate 25% reduction. I don't have to worry about travel time on my mech. But yeah, I think it's meta and drop deck weight limits combined. The Thunderbolt, it's a small heavy mech delivering assault mech firepower because of its quirks, and that's why it's you bring an assault mech, you're risking a lot of your drop deck tonnage to do that. I think aces, when we go into a match, when we bring a long range wave, I'd say 50 to 75% of our deck is Thunderbolts. Different loadouts, then some Stalkers, Jaegers, Shadowhawk 2Ks. We mix it up. We don't force our players, but like they're talking about, as skill goes up, drop deck variety goes down, as players just accept if they want to maximize the potential, they bring the best. Is it a huge problem? Just balance the mechs that need balancing, but meta will always be there. The moment you nerf the 9S below being the best mech, the next best mech will now be 75% of a wave at a time. So go ahead.
I was going to say, I think that's just sort of the case. No matter what happens, something else will just pop up and be replaced. Because, we're talking about min-maxing here. Brandon, do you feel the same way?
Yeah, pretty much. Once you actually change the meta, there's always going to be the flavor of the mech month. So once the 9S gets the nerf stick, because, it's inevitable, the next thing is just going to come take its place, and everyone's going to run that. It's always going to be changing, but it's always going to be, one thing's always going to be consistent. The best mech for getting the job done is always going to be prevalent, and I don't think there's anything that's going to be able to change that.
All right, so I was getting delays. Am I delayed still?
I think you're good, maybe. We'll find out.
Maybe. Yeah, we will move on to talking more about drop decks, moving out of tactics and strategies. But I do want to say, I think it's a little bit funny that people are complaining about the tryhards and the meta. That's just going to happen, and it's only going to get worse as we get things like planetary ownership rewards and basically more meaning behind community warfare. People are only going to be trying to win even more. And as far as light rushes installing in long range and all the different things that are happening, people are always going to find the easiest way to win, or the most successful way, the tactics. And so that's kind of more of a gameplay issue, I think. And as more development comes along to community warfare, I think that'll help, as well as Phil didn't bring it up, quirks. There's still a lot more in store as far as quirks go that could make mechs that aren't standing out now much better. But of course, like Phil also said, if you take one mech away, something else is just going to pop up and fill it.
Well, I think where that also comes from is just the lack of diversity in heavies for IS. Yeah, I mean, I think we touched on this last week, which is Orions can't do... Okay, so the flavor of the month, at least for community warfare, is just basically energy weapons, right? You don't have to worry about ammo. I know there are some changes. Some people will take streaks and stuff, but I guess the majority of it is laser vomit for clans, PPC lasers for IS or whatever. Well, when you look at the heavies, Orions can't do that effectively at all. Low slung arms, energy in the arms, right? Catapults, Jester, but that's under a paywall. A lot of people, okay, so you scratch that. Then Jaegers? Yeah, not going to happen. You move on to Thunderbolts. Thunderbolts, perfect, energy pretty much all around. You've got the Quick Draw. Quick Draw is actually good mech, but it hasn't got received past 2. I will say the Quick Draw for past 2 had some major overhauls on it that will favor better play from them. I mean, just all the heavies. You go down the list. I think the Grasshopper is going to play a big role. It'll offer another energy heavy for IS that's jump capable as well. But unless that changes, also, it just sort of minimizes what the IS can bring. You look at the IS, or I mean, you look at the clans: Laser Vomit Timby, Laser Vomit Hellbringer. You've got at least 6 mechs there because of the different variants, even though you pretty much do the same thing on all of them, right? I mean, you just don't have that available for the IS. So it has to basically capitalize on the one mech that does that really well, whether it's a Thunderbolt or an Awesome or whatever. So I think that'll help.
Yeah. I think the answer is super simple, and Shimmy will know what I'm talking about. The answer is the Warhammer, the Rifleman, the Marauder,
right? Yeah,
and
just
the
bring
Archer.
those in.
Yes.
Just bring the Marauder, it'll solve it all. Just
Yes.
bring it in.
Hey, let's go ahead and skip the drop decks topic. We did touch on it a little bit. There's really no new info. I'd like to, and we already talked about the, Stormcrows and Thunderbolts and stuff. Let's move on to game modes, because we didn't get into this last time. There is some new stuff coming, which is counterattack changes. So the next discussion topic is game modes. We currently have attack and defend. And like I just said, there'll be some changes to counterattack soon, which will make it more skirmish assault. And that will be coming in February. Somebody's keying out there. Anyway, anybody have anything they want to bring up on the topic of game modes? Brandon?
Yeah, I was always thinking that sort of a progressive capture the hill type thing might be interesting. Whereas you got one nav point that you have to go to, and you got to stay there for a certain period of time, and then once you get it, you kind of capture the point, it locks down, and then a new one pops up type of thing. So kind of like a rolling battle all across the map or something like that.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. Anybody else have?
Well, I think what this is, different game modes sort of play towards different maps as well. So stuff like incentivizing lance play, I don't know how. Or whether that's like you have a capture point or a whatever point, whether it's an ammunition or mobile field base or something that's way off there that only light mechs could really go out and fight, and or fast mediums, stuff like that. Whether it's something like Rush. I think Rush is basically what I'd love to see in a game mode. If you've never played Rush, by the way, guys, Battlefield series, it's sort of what I imagined community warfare was going to be like, but it's basically where you fight once you push and destroy the enemies at said location, or an objective, it opens up the next segment and the defenders start spawning back there, stuff like that. I just feel like more dynamic play. I'd love to see the leopards and aerospace fighters and stuff play a bigger role, and of course AI, but just game modes. King of the Hill or something. I think would
Union
always be
class
fun.
dropship mode.
Yeah, you could always have. We're always talking about that count stalling and stuff. You could always implement stuff to where the attack or drop ships start coming in to help support as it gets later in the battle or stuff. I don't know. They're just definitely more engaging dynamic play, not just this attack the generators, shoot the gun, and there it is.
Rush gets brought up every single time this is discussed, game modes in community warfare. I think Rush is something that the community really wants. I think that was kind of what was intended with the gates, but obviously lights can mechs can just jump right over the gates, and you can basically get into the entire map wherever you want to go at any point in the game, as long as you don't have enemies stopping you. So I think Rush is a great idea. Hopefully that's something that's being looked at. Rodian, you had something to say?
Why not dropship assault?
Like attacking the dropship.
Yes.
Union,
you remember
right?
Mech Warrior 4?
Yes.
No, remember Mech 4?
Yeah.
Yes.
With the Overlord?
You could kill him with one
go.
Shadow Cat though. I mean, it was dumb.
Then
it was dumb.
It, Sean. We make it more relevant to the time.
Overlord would definitely be awesome, dude. Do you know how big that thing is?
On it
God, an Overlord is huge, by the way. Like, I don't think we've ever really seen the scale of that. And you see how big
it's supposed to carry what, 36?
36 mechs plus arrow plus tanks plus infantry plus a whole crew.
Yeah. Tyler had mentioned something, like adding some kind of stage if the defenders want to move out and try and basically cap the attackers or whatever, throwing in some drop ship or something that they have to take out. I don't know. I think there's a lot of room for improvement. We have pretty basic maps to start. We have pretty basic game modes and a lot of room to grow. So I hope that we see something like Rush. I'm interested to see what the more skirmish assault changes are to the counterattack mode. Yes.
Why not another one that just popped into my head? We have these factions like Rossalok that is being encompassed by a certain faction, and we'll never be able to attack that planet. Why not have a week or 2 weeks or maybe even a month long event for control of that planet? Because we all know in the lore, Rossalok gets taken over technically by Wolf, but it gets taken over nonetheless, and their capital moves on. Why not actually have that happen in our game?
Lore-based events.
Yes, precisely. Yes. Or the Battle of Luthen. I mean, Jaguars are there now. I mean, the timeline is way before when it should be, but it's there. It gives you a reason to add more of those not-so-capital world planets we have, like Sarna and Capella. I mean, make use of the cool things we have on the map. Let's spice things up, because I love spices. Free Worlds League took Solaris. Free Worlds League has only had Solaris once in the lore, and to have them capture it again is a very big thing. And I think it should be, maybe celebrated or something. It needs to be more cool stuff happen other than, well, it's been day number 39. Jaguars taken X planet, and nobody really cares anymore because there's only 13 players that play. Because that's what it's going to end up being if we don't do something.
Alexander.
Oh, I was just going to add on that. I think that's more of, a clan problem than it is as much of an Intersphere problem. I mean, Merrick could push into Eastern Liao and take their capital pretty quickly. But as far as the clans go, having some sort of event set up, even if you wanted to make it a entire community-wide event where, any Intersphere pilot can go and, over a weekend event, go and just try and defend Rossalhog or try and defend Luthien, and then maybe all the clans can do the same thing as attacking it. And I think that would add something that would be a unique event to CW and kind of help drive interest in it.
Now, with community warfare, I want to put something in. There's no incentive There's no dire strait of an invasion happening. And I think, when we read this in the novels, it's because it's real, right? It's happening in the novels. Like, they're literally killing, families, entire cities, populace, 4 million people just wiped off the face, of a planet. So one of the issues I think that they need to overcome is in putting that type of influence in the map. And I'm not saying just a C bill incentivizing, people to go up and fight or whatever. That could be a part of it. I guess what I'm trying to say is some type of mechanic that affects things, affects logistics somehow. We don't have prices for weapons and stuff like that, and mechs aren't influenced. But could it be? Could that, your success in community warfare actually shape how things maybe in just the game affected? Maybe there's a microcosm of prices in community warfare. So, for instance, you do have repair and rearm, you do have these things, and they're affected. Mechs are different prices in community warfare, and so when you lose one or what, I guess my point being is it could be. It's incentivizing the factions to work together for a common good, and that's what the Inner Sphere was at the time doing. It was, oh shit, this is real, this is happening, the clans are going for Terra, they are superior and all this fun stuff. Now, I say that, there is only so much they can do if they leave it up to the players, and what will the players do? But I don't think there's anything wrong in creating a system that incentivizes the cooperation between units, because there's no reason to have Free Worlds League and Liao basically trying to take over Steiner and Davion if those forces are being attacked by the clans and could basically go attack Free Worlds League instead. So there needs to be other incentives for the units and factions to basically do those type of things if they want to sort of incentivize that. This universe, basically the Inner Sphere is in a bad spot right now.
All right. I'm looking ahead here at the next discussion topic, which is basically general community warfare issues. We've already talked about performance optimization. Yes, we know that definitely community warfare needs to be better optimized so we can get better performance. We talked a little bit about the new player experience. I guess if anybody has anything to say about that, you're more than welcome. I still put that question out there. Should there be a new player experience for community warfare? Is it a new player experience? And then I guess the only one that we haven't really touched on is, and this is totally just, to talk about because there's no plans for anything otherwise, but should community warfare be 24/7? Are there any downsides to that? If the population continues to grow, is that going to affect it in a good or bad way? If the population shrinks, is that going to affect it in a good or bad way? Any ideas out there? Shimmy.
As far as 24-hour cycle, combat, yes, I believe that should stay. I think we're all wary of it when they initially said we're going to have several hour windows, and suddenly it's 24 hours and just a short ceasefire. But I think it's gone well, and it should stay that way, because if you really limit these prime times down, what about the people that can't make it to any of those, that have a very specific time slot they can fit into, and suddenly they can't play at all? I'd rather have these longer cycles that maybe at times have population issues, but at least allow people to play. There seems to always be a fight somewhere for people to go. So yeah, I think it's good where it is.
Cool. Erodian?
Yeah, I kind of got a mirror Shimmy on the fact that I like the 24/7. It's really cool. If we can add in some way to throw the lore in there and make this really feel like a BattleTech game, that would make it so much even better than it already is. But I mean, to pull the time teleporter here and go all the way back to when we were talking about one planet a day to now 3. Personally, I think it's better when we stick to one planet a day, because look where we are now, and that's after what, 5 weeks or so, and SJ's all the way at Luthen, and it's only 3050. And I think they're supposed to get there like 3052 or so. So we're really ahead of schedule, and sticking with 3 is just going to make it even more ahead of schedule. And that's not to say we have to stick with the lore. I think that PGI has made it very clear that the lore is always going to be kind of a sideline, but usually only to gameplay. So it would still be nice to slow things down a bit, but I'm not sure how they would go about that.
We are the lore now. We are the story. Yeah, I mean, it's really not going to be sticking or adhering to, the lore timeline necessarily. I think it would probably be loosely based. But yeah, I totally mirror your thoughts on, like, I was concerned, and this is something I talked to Russ about. Like, for example, I played PlanetSide. Played both PlanetSide 1 and 2. PlanetSide 1, the battles for a territory, for a continent, used to take days. I remember literally, battles for continents taking days, 2-3 days. You'd wake up the next day, everybody's still fighting over the same continent. PlanetSide 2, for me, the big change they brought into, the territory control was that everything moved too quickly. You get a base, you lose a base, you get a base, you lose a base. It's just happening over and over again. What I saw was that decreased the value of acquiring said base or territory or whatever. I want it to be really difficult to get a territory, and I want the payoff to be high. So I agree that I feel that maybe 3 times a day changing is a bit much. Obviously with the science, we'll see. I like Shimmy's idea of having 3 ceasefires, but calculating everything once per day. I just want, when you get a planet, I want it to mean something. I want it to mean something in both the work that you put into it and the rewards that you get. Let's see. Alex, you said you had a question.
Yeah, actually, I just kind of wanted to touch on something Shimmy said with, the when it was originally discussed and it being only a couple hour window, a couple times a day, and now it's 24/7. Now we have 3 windows. I think another way to also kind of maybe improve the spirit experience for some people is maybe shift around those windows, like not consistently, but maybe once a week, maybe move the windows an hour later or an hour earlier. And that way, it still would affect some people in a way of making them feel like they matter. Because not everyone can stay up till 1 a.m. Eastern, and not everyone can, it's same thing with, the Euro guys and the Eurasian, or the Oceanic guys. I mean, being able to move around that time slot a little bit might get more people involved that currently are, and make them feel like, oh, hey, during my prime time today is when that window closes. And I think that's a really cool thing.
Right on. Well, let's move on. This is awesome. We made it through, guys. Good job. Moving on to the final discussion topic, which is player run leagues and tournaments. And basically, I was hoping to get to this last week, but is community warfare now the place for comp teams? I know that some people will say yes, but a lot of people will say no, that comp teams aren't finding their satisfaction necessarily in community warfare as it stands today. Would something like Solaris be more attractive to comp teams? And will player run leagues and tournaments pull comp teams out of community warfare? You guys have thoughts? Let's see, Rodian.
All right, so is CW the place for comp teams? I'm going to have to say, personal opinion, as far as my comp team is concerned, I like it. I think everybody in my comp team likes it. I don't want to speak for all of them, but I feel like we do like it. Now, each comp team is going to have their own feelings on this, and we shouldn't necessarily have the 4 of us here make the definitive answer. I mean, that wouldn't be fair at all, and not expecting us to. So some of them are just going to like it as it used to be, where it was 12v12. You only get 1 mech. It's all about your skill level as far as piloting that mech and destroying the enemy. Some of the comp players will love that, and they just don't like having 4 mechs and fighting over nonsense planets. Some people find that doing CW at this is our job, this is what we're going to focus on, we're going to make it so we are the best at CW, that'll be us. And yeah, I think there's a place for certain comp teams in CW, and it's really cool.
All right, Brandon, catch your
I think as far as community warfare goes, that comp teams are pretty much I'd say more or less in control of community warfare. That being said, it's my opinion that I don't think all comp teams are enjoying community warfare. I think a lot of comp teams are still doing third-party tournaments and stuff like that just because of the different rule sets and the different rules and the different types of games, that sort of thing that you can kind of enforce with that sort of thing. So yeah, I think community warfare is very much for the hardcore community slash the big groups and stuff like that. But I don't think third-party tournaments or anything like that is going to go away anytime soon because they do offer something alternative and different that some people might like and some people might not.
A different experience, I agree. Shimmy?
Yeah, I mean, my experience with Aces is we love it. We got players in Aces that want to be competitive, but when we go, all the way into the competitive tournament scene, it's a lot of work. It stresses people out. It gets a bit much. I was kind of on the edge about it, whether I couldn't tell if I liked competition or not. But CW, it's kind of pseudo competitive, where now at least, okay, we're fighting this faction. We're in a competition with them, and you kind of play the same teams semi regularly, but it's not all the time. And there's the game mode variety, which hopefully will grow. I think previously Aces would do well to have 10 guys on playing with each other each day. Now it's a company or two companies every day. And once we got over the humps of how to please our players in CW, get them over the queue times, get them over the turret drops, people love it. I think Aces, we kind of call ourselves like we don't like to say we're comp. We're like the right on the edge of comp. I don't know. So I think it's a good middle ground. Guys that want to be competitive in a way, but don't want to go all the way hardcore, CW is a great place to be.
In some other circles, I think that would be considered pro-amateur. Alexander, your thoughts?
I mean, this is one of those things where some people love CW and some people hate CW. And I was actually talking to Antonius Rex just last night about this exact issue of, some of his guys, over at MS are loving it. And, the ability to, have these constant, comp kind of quality matches if you're running it against other 12-mans. And some guys, it's not entirely for them. So, I mean, it's always going to be personal opinions in there. But I know one thing is, as the interest in CW, because we know it's going to get better. So as the interest in CW picks up and then we get more game modes and more quality, I think that, I think those comp teams will continue to play CW more and more. And, some of those, player run leagues and things, I know I'm skipping ahead a couple questions, but I think those might kind of start to go away a little bit because there will be a constant place for them and it won't be a single kind of season. It will be a persistent universe that doesn't exactly happen anywhere else.
I think one of the things with some of the comp teams, and I've talked to SJR and I've heard a few Lords and a few of the others, the majority of the matches aren't competitive though. And then on top of that, they'll play and they don't have as big of a footprint in the result of the ending planet. And that's frustrating. I know I was talking to Jaeger about it, and SGR wasn't built for CW. It was built for comp play, 12-man. And so, units that can field multiple 12-mans at a time, you guys are seeing big success. You can pull the weight of a planet and stuff like that. And again, I'm not speaking for these units. It's just one things I've heard. So I think the more community warfare evolves and potential matches where it's more competitive. And I will say this, even though they may not be getting a competitive match every single time, some of these units that have formed for community warfare starting off are going to be learning and catching up, as far as skill level and stuff like that. So I think it's a good playground for units to ease their way in. But I do know for a fact that some of these units aren't really enjoying the basically fact that they're just raffle stomping. Now they're making a lot of money, right? But it's an easy win for them, and so I think it's a good thing for the comp scene because it brings more actual units at that level. But no, I think comp teams in general, they're still attracted to the other leagues just because of that. It pits them against other equally skilled teams and with different rule sets.
Now, Phil and I and NGNG are very much supporters of player-run leagues and tournaments. They're an important part of the community, and definitely I think there's a huge need for them currently, and maybe for the entire life of the game. But part of my original question is, or was, would Solaris be a good place for comp teams? And I think, Erodian, you have some thoughts?
Yeah, I took a few minutes to think about is CW the place for comp teams? And so those comp teams that don't like CW, that want to stick with the normal 12v12, Solaris is going to be their avenue for success. Take that planet out of CW, make it a neutral ground, and have something either in the game or on the website, something that can show that CW game, or not CW, Solaris games, and make them have value. And maybe have Team SJR is fighting against Team Lords 7v7, and they'll have these cool new Solaris only maps, and maybe have crazy rules or whatever. And it could be just like they had with the first time tournament. Have it streamed and put it up on the website. SGR beats Team Lord 7v7 and map something another, or somebody wins against somebody else, and the prizes and everything, and make it look cool. And if you can do those three things, I think you'll have great success in a Solaris environment, and the comp players will probably flock to that.
Katra, do you agree?
I agree and disagree at the same time. I think Solaris is something I'm really looking forward to, but it might not be for some of the bigger comp units. I could see, for myself particularly, Solaris would be more for if I want to do a competitive deathmatch, just me versus 12 others, everyone just throwing punches in every direction. Or I could see it for a competitive 4-man, a lance on lance type setting, or a lance on lance on lance, like have 3 4-mans or something like that. I think it'd be better for the smaller units or smaller lances that want to be competitive, but don't have enough to form a full competitive 12.
Well, I'm going to actually disagree. I think comp players would love it because it's a competition. It's a set of rules, and it's proving who's the best. One-on-ones aren't the only, and free-for-alls aren't the only in Solaris. They have a wide variety of stuff, and why not make up your own? I think 4v4s, 8v8s. I think 2v4s, 3v5, stuff like that, where you have 2 heavies versus X amount. There's a whole wide variety of standings, if you can basically have. I think it would be amazing. But on this note, I think what's really important for comp teams is stats. They want to show that they're the top, and regardless, this is just team stats in general. I think the entire community has wanted stats like that in game. Now that we actually have units, bring out the stats. And actually, I do think there's stuff like this coming down the road. Have a leaderboard. Have an active leaderboard for community warfare. Have it for Solaris. People want to know who's top dog, and then prove it. Well, I'm on the list. Stuff like that. I think it would be phenomenal, and I think comp teams would jump all over it. It's just it's not there, so there's no incentive for keeping that stuff internal.
All right, guys. Well, that is it on the discussion topics. We are going to do some closing shout outs, but before we get to that, is there anything that any of you four, want to say that wasn't brought up? So if there is, go ahead and X up, and we will touch on whatever is brought up, which is nothing. So we did it. We got up.
Aha!
You mess with me, buddy. You just waited until I said, all right, there's nothing. Rodian, what do you have to say?
I like CW, and I like starting in 3050, but eventually everything is going to get stale no matter what we do. Innersphere mechs will always have those medium lasers, and we need a way to make it fresh. If they could drop in a timeline advancement, not now, not like, a few months from now, a long time down the road, give us some time to do this map, but have it drop where the Innersphere will get new tech, and thus new mechs because of that new tech, and then open up even more avenues for very big events that happen in the timeline, like the Battle of Tukiyid or maybe the FedCom Civil War. Just really cool stuff that we can finally put into being because we have this game. We have the technology. We can make it bigger, better, stronger, faster. We just need
Bionic
the
Man.
will to do it.
Yep. I think Russ pretty much confirmed that we're not going to be, adhering to the timeline strictly or anything like that. There will be advancements. He didn't specify on when and how far or anything like that, but yeah, I agree. There's no way you could do it in real time or anything like that. We'd never see some of our favorite mechs and new weapons coming in. But anyway, we want to, we did it. Like I said, again, that's good. So maybe next week we can refine this even more, but we made it through all the discussion topics. Thank you everybody for showing up. Totally appreciate it. Of course, this is kind of in the making. We're going to be doing these every week, at least for now, and we'll refine it as much as possible. Of course, every week is going to be dependent on the guests that we have, as far as the quality of the content. We had a Rodian this time, so we apologize for that. But real quick, we're going to do some shout outs, and we'll start at the top again. I know I had to mess with you for messing with me. Shimmy, you want to give any shout outs?
Well, I don't have friends, so I'll just say shout out to Aces, my own unit. Yeah,
I'm your friend,
we're
Shimmy.
recruiting, guys. We're recruiting.
I'll be your friend.
Katra, you got any shout outs?
Yeah, to Aces, because you guys are awesome. And finally, because Shimmering Sword doesn't have friends, we have a shout out to Shimmering Sword because he draws awesome art and also awesome Aces art.
Here, here. Alexander.
I'm just gonna stick with it. CGBI guys, thanks for listening and being out there, and keep on doing what you're doing and taking planets.
Excellent. And Lenny, I was joking. I love you. Any shout outs?
Shout out to all the believers of the one true Blake. The time will come when we take over the inner sphere. I mean, relieve the inner sphere of their tyrants. And I don't remember where I was going with that. So, hey.
All right.
Peace of Blake be with you all.
I was going to say, aren't you a warden? You are Ghost Bear.
He's a lot of different things.
He snuck into our unit somehow. I don't know what he's doing here.
I'm very confused.
It's totally conflicted. Anyways, guys, I just want to say a big thank you to everyone out there, our listeners, new and old, and of course, you guys. Thank you again for being on here. Katrakel, Rodian, Shimmering Sword, Alexander Wolf, Aces, and Ghost Bear International. Thank you again, guys, for having a in-depth discussion. And of course, to all of you guys out there, unit leaders, by the way, if you are a unit leader and you're not on my list, and if you have no idea, if you haven't been getting my emails, then you're not on my list, you need to toss me an email at seanlang@NoGutsNoGalaxy.net. I will get your contact info, put you on the mega doc I have, an email mailing list, and maybe you'll be on the show very, very soon, speaking to us about community warfare, your thoughts, opinions, and all that fun stuff. Anyways, thank you again, guys, for being here, all of our new listeners. Hey, if you are at the channel and you are new, make sure to hit that follow button. And, of course, don't forget to follow us on Facebook and Twitter. And, of course, this will be up on SoundCloud and on YouTube as well. So you can listen to it on there afterwards. And I'll go ahead and start the export process right after this. And, again, thank you, guys, for being here. This has been your local No Guts, No Galaxy Community Warfare Roundtable discussion. I'd like to say thank you again, guys, and have a great night, and we'll see you next time.